Welcome to the winter edition of Seasonal Garden Tips. Today I'll show you some projects that can be done at this time of the year, and I'll give you some tips to help you get ready for spring. So let's get started. Right now is a great time to start seeds, so you'll have the young seedling starter plants to set out in the garden as soon as spring arrives. And this, for example, is a good time to start any of the herbs, whether they're the annual herbs or the perennial varieties, because then you'll have nice established plants by mid-season. Also a good time early in the season to get your tomatoes started. Because of our short season climate, we want to get an early start on tomatoes. And this is also an excellent time to start any of the perennials or biennials. Starting them this early inside, generally they'll flower the first year for you. If you wait until later and seed them outside, they won't flower until next year. So get an early start with them. When choosing your seeds here in the garden department, be sure to look at the price and then the weight. That'll show you that Hume seeds are a great value. Now, this is a great time to start with any one of several different types of containers to start your seeds. For example, this is one that fits beautifully on a windowsill. Gardener's Delight makes this just right to sit right on your windowsill, and is what you want to do then is to fill it with a seed starter mix like this. This is again the Garden Delight seed starter mix, and is what I'm going to show you how to start in this particular case is the tomatoes, because we want to get the early start, get those large tomatoes early out in the garden. So let's get started with tomatoes, and you'll always find that it's easiest to open the bottom side of the packet. So I'll just tip that up and open this. It opens very easily on that end, and you can see there are plenty of tomato seeds there. And is what I'll do in each one of these sections, I'll only put 2 seeds, and then we'll thin them a little bit later to the strongest of the 2. And I'm only going to do this one section here because we'll plant something else. We only need 12 tomato plants in the garden anyhow, or even less than that. So we'll just do it like that. Now, the important thing is that we always sow seeds no more than 2 times the greatest diameter of the seed. So you'll notice I just set those on the top of the soil. I'll just lightly push them in with my fingers, like so, and pull a little bit of soil over the top of them so that they are barely covered. There's a tendency very often for us to just poke our finger in like that. Well, then the seeds are too deep, so don't do that. There they are, and then the next job is to simply, we're going to take some PlanTea. That's this product right here, and this makes 6 gallons of fertilizer, and I've mixed it now with water and going to moisten the soil, and this is ideal starter fertilizer whenever you're sowing seeds. And you notice when you do it in a fine spray like this, then the soil does not run at all. Now, I haven't done the rest of this, so I will do this a little bit later. But look at, in this Gardener's Delight packet, there's also the humidome. So you can put it on top, and it acts like a greenhouse. So here on the windowsill, we can start our own seeds, and we'll do tomatoes, and another one I'll do herbs, another one I'll start some of the perennials, and maybe some of the biennials as well. Now that's one way to do it. You can also do it in individual pots or individual peat pots, or here's another idea. This is an actual flat, and again, this has the humidome with it. So once you get the entire area seeded and planted, all you do is to remove it like so. And these are peat trays in this particular case. And once again, you've got a miniature greenhouse. A great way to start your seeds and get an early start on producing those little fine, beautiful bedding plants that you can set out in the garden as soon as spring arrives. This is a good time of the year to give some special attention to your houseplants. And one of the jobs that can be done at this time of the year is the repotting of houseplants. And the greatest indicator is when the roots begin to grow out the bottom of the pot. Also, pay a little bit of attention to the pot. For example, you'll notice here a white buildup on this pot, or here's a plastic pot that also has a white buildup on it. That indicates the use of fertilizer. Fertilizer salts too much. So that means you're probably fertilizing your plants way too much. And if they're not doing well, that's the one thing you might want to cut back on. This buildup of fertilizer salts can also be caused by fluorides or chlorine in the water as well. And there are a couple important things. In the Hume seed rack here in the garden department, you'll find the 1999 Garden Almanac. And it will point on different days, the best days for repotting and grooming houseplants. So be sure to pick one up, and it will serve as a great almanac throughout the entire year for you. Now, let's also talk a little bit about choosing a pot to replant any plant. For example, there's the root system. Obviously, this plant needs repotting. In fact, roots are even coming up over the top of the soil, and that's another indicator when a plant needs to be repotted. But we always only choose a pot one size larger. See, that's just one size larger, and that's all. Second thing is that we water the container, which I've already done. And then the next thing is to take your hand and run it across the top of the plant like so, and tap the plant out of the container like that, so that there's no chance of it becoming bare root. Now we'll loosen these roots as well. And what I'm going to do is to take then some good black gold potting soil, put it right here in the bottom of the container, just a little bit. Oh, there's about maybe a quarter of a pot or so. And then I'll take this plant. I'm going to loosen those side roots just a little bit more. Set it in here so that the top of the root ball is about half an inch to an inch below the rim of the container. So there'll be room for watering. And then add more potting soil, like so. And add just a little bit more over here on the other side. And I've set the plant so it's kind of in the center of the container, and then firm it down. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to take some of the PlanTea, and here again, you can find this in the Hume seed rack right here in the garden department. And this is an organic fertilizer, and in fact the tea bag itself is organic, so can be totally recycled as well. In fact, it could be added right to the soil. And water this in and fertilize it at the same time. It's that simple, and you can get your houseplants in tip-top shape right now by grooming them and repotting any that need repotting.